Hello and welcome back to NBL Overtime. It was a massive round through. We had comebacks, bounce backs and contentious refereeing decisions. Absolutely everything happening, and we've got our usual star-studded panel. Leonard Copeland, Peter Hawley and Mitch Creek is back. But fellas, congratulations are in order. Oh. Because I was unaware, but apparently the great man next to me, Leonard Copeland, has entered the NFL Hall of Fame. Oh. And he's been awarded the NFL Hall of Fame jacket. Man, that is incredible for someone who's never played a game.
Patch, don't worry.
You look great.
Thank you.
I personally think you look very good in that jacket. That's very
He's
good.
jealous. He's jealous.
No, I like his jacket. I did say earlier off air that Leonard Copeland is approaching 90 years old and still looks better than all of us. So.
Thanks for that. If that's a compliment, thank you.
Let's jump straight into the hoops, though, because for the Brisbane Bullets, well, it got worse. We didn't think it could, but they are 0-3 to start the season. But apparently, according to Justin Schuller, it is not exactly all doom and gloom.
Like we win the second half, tie with them in the third, win the fourth. Like they're the positives in it, things that we can continue to build on. And they're a talented group. So for us to be able to say, for patches there, we can go pound for pound. That gives me great hope for what we can become.
We're on round 3, man. There's a lot of red on that chart, and we won the second half. Ain't gonna cut it at this point.
Yeah, it's not a pretty look when you break it down like that, especially, but even watching all those games and calling a couple of them, it is no surprise that those 3 green quarters, they have actually looked good. But again, the round 1 versus the Breakers, it was a desperation fourth quarter, right? They had nothing else left but to get up full court, to double team everything, to just throw the kitchen sink at them, and they looked very good because of that. And then on the weekend, after about midway through the second quarter, the Sydney Kings kind of looked like they could get whatever they want. Now, what happened in the second half is a lot with Sydney as well, but then the Bullets, as Schuller said, did show some fight. But at what point is showing some fight when you've already dug yourself a massive hole and the game looks over good enough?
You speak about the blitz curse a lot, and it definitely
it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. But, Leonard, what we saw from Harrison and Dingadell in the preseason had everyone excited. Turnaround year, the Brisbane Bullets are finally back. It couldn't have been more underwhelming so far.
Well, that's because they played against guys that are not getting a lot of minutes. And they did well in the preseason. You got to give it to them. Look, Harrison was phenomenal. He posted up. He rebounded the ball well. Dingadell shot the ball well. But listen, this is the real deal, and these guys are going at it now. And they're not showing up.
We talked about last week that the preseason is about kind of testing the waters and what lineups work. And, we spoke about South East Melbourne not running the team they probably should have to get the confidence for the start. But now you've got Dingadell, who is a little bit underwhelming, but he has the potential to be a big spark. Harrison is another person who all he needs is a little bit of confidence. And when the team's down on their luck, they're not really getting the quarters, they're not stringing it together, they're trying to find their way. A little bit of love, a little bit of positivity, get a win, everyone's lives gets a little bit easier.
What do? We can sit here at pot shots and say this is all a disaster right now, but there comes a point where we've got to find out what to do.
They need to change the lineup straight away. Perf did it last year. You put Mitch Norton at the point. He's defensive-minded. He passes the ball well. He's been through it before. He's won championships. He knows what it takes to win because he's in the game in the fourth quarter when they make their run. You might as well put him in at the start because they can't have any more bad runs.
And the sooner they get Josh Bannon into the starting lineup as well, you talk about a foundation piece who's going to be there for a very long time. Talking about the captain of the club, a future boomer potentially. No, he's coming off the wrist injury, the hand injury, but he's going to be back in the starting lineup. But the blitz curse, and as you're saying, Creaky, how well they played. You are playing against some teams. So as we said, teams pick 1 or 2 games. They played pretty much their main rostered guys as much as they could for conditioning. And the problem on that side is too, when you're not saying you show your whole playbook, but you show how good you are with the 2 big guys, with Harrison and Rocco, and then James Bateman looked very good in the preseason. Everyone else sees that too, and then they have more time to think about how do we kind of negate this when the season starts.
We've got to be a little bit careful here because we chastised South East Melbourne for not taking the preseason seriously
It's
and not playing enough guys. And now we're saying Brisbane, you played too many guys.
Too much, yeah.
So we've got to watch where we go. But you look at as well, the elephant in the room right now is James Bateman. Incredibly underwhelming. You've preached it multiple times. He was very good overseas, or at least the resume that would say he's going to do a lot better than what he is now. You have to, at some point, make a change.
He's averaging 5 points a game at 29%. Now, like you said, we know he can play. He's struggling. Bring him off the bench and work with him. I'm not saying get rid of him. Bring him off the bench, work with him until he gets his confidence up and they win a couple of games and then slide him back in there if you need to. But if Norton's playing great, I'm leaving Norton at that point guard.
And you got to try and mix it up a little bit. But bringing someone off the bench, we spoke about this time and time again now, it is not a bad thing. Yeah. It is actually a great thing for a player. And it doesn't matter how good or bad you think you are, you get the second unit, and normally they're not as polished or refined as the starters. You now get a green light. You're the import, you're coming off the bench, you've struggled. Let's get them up, but let's be careful about how we do it. Let's just not go chuck everything up in the block party. Let's go and be precise about our offense, precise about our defense, and give our good players a chance to really thrive.
And I think that's the key message here is you don't want to go and make those too big of emotional calls early without trying something like that. Maybe we give him a different look then in the second unit. Casey Prather looked very good on the weekend. So maybe if Casey slides back down to the 3, they put Josh Bannon into the 4. They've got enough pieces offensively to start the game, and then you give Bateman a chance for a new look before you go and make any big calls like that. But you'd envision something will have to change. Obviously, we'll talk a bit about the game coming on Saturday because the 2 winless teams are going head-to-head. But what we've seen, 3 really good quarters and the rest really poor to start the season, is not where anyone wants to be. I know Sam McDaniel's a massive out too, but what are they doing to cover for his presence as a group? I'm not sure.
If we were, and I say we, the Brisbane Bullets, if the Brisbane Bullets were to make a call on Bateman, is there another guy that's had NBL experience? Because usually you want to go with a known commodity if you're making a change like this. Is there someone else out there?
Well, I talk to players all the time, past players all the time. I'm going to have Big Sauce on a podcast, NBL Now podcast tomorrow. He watches the league. I was talking to Tajir McCall last week. And we've seen what Tajir McCall, what happened at the end of Cairns. You're very close with him, Creaky, and obviously he's got his options open. I don't think he's playing anywhere right now, and he loved the NBL, so maybe that's worth picking up. I did mention on this, I think it was on Overtime a couple of years ago, I think it was like, I spoke to Casey Prather, he's healthy, and now he's back. So maybe that's how you put it in the end.
And that's the thing, Tajir McCall isn't just a one-dimensional player. If not, probably the best defensive guard the league's seen in a number of years, probably since Damian Martin and Shea Illies, but he can score the ball, he can get hot, he can make plays, he's a playmaker that passes the ball first, but his effort, diving on loose balls, rebounds, just bringing energy to a group that seems flat. I think you're right, Peter. I think he's a guy that...
He's a leader as well.
I think he's looking at his phone after this tonight. He'll look at us and go, God damn it, I'm not ready. Or he's going to be ready because he's the guy that's always ready. We play together in Long Island in the NBA. He's a guy that I trust to be on my team and to be on any team and to make them better. I'd love to see Tajir.
I tried to get Casper Ware back in the league too many years.
That didn't work. He's making too much money now.
I certainly hope you guys are going to get a clip of that if he does sign in the NBL. But the issues don't just come from the guards position. The bigs, the Twin Towers, as we've nicknamed them, Rocco and Tyrell. Now, a lot of guys don't like to go with these old school big log type bigs, but Brisbane have gone with it. Right now, you got pushed around by Kelly LePepe. Bench presses 180 kilos.
He can push anybody around. He can push anybody around.
Kelly LePepe can push everybody around. But yeah, this is not what you want to see when you've got an advantage on one end with the 2 tallest players in the competition. And as I said, teams are starting to now realise how they can go at that, how they can really try and exploit that. I think Rocco's looked very good in his opportunities that he's had. But how you try and get that to be effective more so in your advantage than a disadvantage is huge. And again, shout out Kelly LePepe though. These numbers in 15 minutes were exceptional. He looked absolutely unstoppable, and that's why the Kings were so high on getting him out of college.
Kelly LePepe is a mogul sports athlete. He's an absolute stud. I spoke to him when we were trying to recruit him into mogul sports. Marquise called me and said, we've got this guy, you're going to love him. Sent me his profile, sent me everything about him. I spoke to him, I spoke to his parents, had a really good deep dive into who he was as a person before we talked about basketball. He came on board and he's now, I think, probably the #1 figure in the NBL that everyone's talking about. Yes, he can bench press everything. Yes, he's the strongest guy next to Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. But what he does isn't just basketball. It's the energy, it's the excitement, it's the charisma. And 22 points, yeah, phenomenal. 15 minutes, exceptional. But it's the 3 rebounds that's scary. He's a guy that's been 10, 12 rebounds every single game with Cooks. Now to come out and say, I can have 22 in 15 minutes, people have to respect this guy before he absolutely buries you again.
How tall is he? I need to ask that question because he's still next to you. He's what?
He's 6'6".
Not a chance.
He might be 6'6" when he wakes up.
with the hair?
Yeah. Honestly, whatever he says, he is, he is.
He'll be 6'10".
I'm not going to argue with him. I'm sorry.
Now, the Brisbane Bullets, obviously, their next 5 games coming up. Coming up, the next game is, of course, against South East Melbourne. The Nathan Sobey Cup, we'll call it.
Somebody has to win.
This one, if we talk about, there's no such thing as a must-win game in round 4, but this is about as close as you get for both these teams, staffs and imports.
It's going to be huge. We spoke about it last week. No team in the 40-minute era who'd started 0-4 ever gone on to make the finals. There was no play-in tournament through a lot of those record books. But now Brisbane's staring down being 0-4 and South East Melbourne staring down 0-5 as well. Someone's got to come out with a win. and you try and figure out who it's going to be, the more you break it down with what we've seen so far, you just don't know.
Well, you talk about South East Melbourne there. It has been tough going for them, and it looks like it's going to get even tougher as they go as well. Sobey, nothing's working right now, and unfortunately now for Mike Kelly, received what you would almost call the kiss of death in the media. We'll have a look at the clipping here from the Herald Sun. Anytime you get the full support of the board, Peter Hooley, Mitch Creek-Lenard. I love Mike Kelly. I reckon he's a fantastic coach, but it is almost a kiss of death in professional sports, and this is not a good look.
Look, the problem is there's no leader on the floor. We spoke to, and I'm not saying this because you're sitting here, but when things went wrong last year, you would grab someone and say, look, let's do it this way or let's do it that way. There's nobody on this team right now that does that. Sobey's quiet. Derek Walton Jr. is pretty quiet. Even Mike. Mike's a great guy. I love Mike. I played against Mike. He's quiet. So who's in charge on the floor?
It's a hard one. And look, I'm not perfect. I never captained perfectly. I never played perfectly. But what I did is I always had great intent towards others, allowing them to shine, allowing them to be in the moment and be present. But when it does feel like the whole room's on fire, it's like, hey, we're okay. We can batten down the hatches together. And if we lose, we go out in our sword. We go out in our shield. Like, we're willing to fight. But right now, I think that there's just, I don't know if the connection's there, maybe from players to coaches to staff to confidence in the group through the whole 1 to 12, whatever it is. But I think there's just got to be someone who's got to put their hand up and really take that leadership role on and be willing to be vocal about it.
That's right.
Not just to be a hothead or to fire off at people and say, you're not good enough, that's not good enough. But you've got to be brave enough to make the mistake and say you're going to do the exact opposite, but you walk straight into the fire and you're like, okay, that's cool, but at least my intentions were pure and I had the right thought of mind.
Mitch, if you were to sit here right now, Mike Kelly's copping a whole bunch of flack online. Nathan Sobey's copping a whole bunch of flack online. Derek Walton Jr. is escaping a little bit for mine. But where would you put the percentages right now on? And I hate to put you in a position to blame someone, but Sobey's taken some real bad shots out there that some of these things that Mike Kelly cannot control. He can't go out there and put the ball in the hole for these players. How much of the blame lies on the playing group and how much probably blames on the coaching staff?
Well, that's a really good question, and it actually doesn't really bother me because when I look at the games now, I watched two different teams. I watched Cairns and I watched South East Melbourne very closely. I watched all the games, but those two specifically, I think Cairns are in a place right now where they're playing excellent basketball, both ends of the court. But offensively, when they execute, there's actions with action. So I watched an inbounds play where Sam Wardenberg inbounds it, and then Taron Armstrong gets a nice little backdoor. It could just be a little handoff into a little drop-off for Sam. But there's a simple action with great execution with 1 or 2 counters. Right now at South East Melbourne, it looks like there's not enough direction to be specific about this is what we're running and we run that. It just feels like they're just running off it and then going to the next side and then the next side. And there's no real, I've got this, but I'm going to set up this cut to get this person to look over there. Right. It's just this part right here on this side is the focus. And I feel like there just needs a bit more intention, a bit clearer maybe from Mike to the players. And the players have to receive it at a high level and then execute. If you don't have that, then the trust goes out the window, then it's free-for-all basketball.
The disconnect is the one that we're seeing right now. But you asked who the leader is on this South East Melbourne team. You can lead by your voice, but you can also lead by example by being that guy. It needs to be Derek Walton Jr. And we saw what he did at the Sydney Kings when he came into this league. To win a championship, so these are his first few games for the Sydney Kings when he touched down compared to here in South East Melbourne. The numbers are way down. And a lot of that is them trying to figure out their identity and them trying to figure out how they're trying to play. So that's the first 4 games in Sydney and the first 4 in South East Melbourne. And a lot of it, again, you talk about the disconnect of trying to figure it all out. When things aren't going your way, and again, I go back to the game in Adelaide last round. In the first half, everything looked flat. Everything looked too hard on both ends, and they just got blown by defensively. They couldn't figure out offensively. And then in the first quarter, when we talked about making a change with Brisbane, we thought someone needs a new look coming off the bench, right, to shake things up. I think there was a 2.5-minute stretch in the first quarter where Sobey and Walton Jr. were on the bench at the same time. Yeah. Now, I'm trying to figure out, well, are you trying to get both of those superstars going? They can't do it when they both play together and they both come off the bench together. Right. So all of that coming into play and then it all spills over onto the court and then everybody's in their own heads. That's what I'm seeing on the floor. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm all for the Eltham Wildcats backcourt on the court at some time. But when you're trying to get your superstars going, that makes it so much harder. What about with the superstars? Obviously, it's top to bottom issues right now for South East Melbourne. You can really pick holes in absolutely everywhere. But Ben Eyre, a guy that can come out, he averaged 10 points last year. He provided an energy spark, and now he is sitting. He's played 2 minutes.
on the season. 2 minutes and 31 seconds in NBL 25. For me, for a team that is struggling to score, struggling to do everything, at least give the kid a chance.
Well, I thought we would have seen him in this Adelaide game a little earlier. I understand all the talk was, and Creaky, you might know more, that it was Foxwell had won those minutes in the preseason early on, which that's fair enough. I think Owen Foxwell is going to be a fantastic NBL player for a very long time. But when your team is flat like they were in Adelaide, they can't score the ball whatsoever, and they need a spark. That's what Ben Eyre does.
Yeah.
He does scoring very well, and if not, he's going to get up in Kendrick Davis' grill, and he might get a couple of fouls, but he's going to try and spark something. I thought we would have seen him a little earlier in Adelaide.
I think he's the guy that, you're right, he shot 50% pretty much damn near all last year in the NBL. He was one of those guys that you put in, and sometimes he'd make a great play, sometimes he wouldn't. But the one thing he did is he put his nose on your chest, and he challenged you. And whether anyone else likes it or not, I hated playing against Ben Eyre. Hated him. I wanted to kick him in the face every single game. But when he was on my team, I was like, hey, it's nice to have you on my team. And we had very chippy days at practice, but it pushes you to be better. And it motivates a team to say, you know what, I'm going to stand by my brother right now because you're trying to get into him and he's reacting. I got your back, mate. And we need more of that.
The one thing about Ben Eyre is he's the most confident player I've ever seen in my life. He feels like he can make any shot at any time, and that's what they need. They need somebody to go out there and be in charge, and they don't have that right now. Everybody's on the same pace. Put him in, give him some minutes, but you can't play him and Foxwell together.
But that confidence is contagious too.
100%.
If you throw him in there, he hits
100%.
a couple shots or he fires people up. The next person, Joe Wieskamp,
100%.
gets excited and they can go from there.
What about this one? How much are we reading into this one on social media? We've done some investigation, and Nathan Sobey put this one. Now, read into it what you will, but Nathan Sobey posted this on Instagram. You cannot expect change without making change.
Ooh.
Now, is that maybe not attempting 700 shots per game? Or is that potentially a hint at the coaching staff?
I think
we don't know, but it's scary. I mean,
you're not posting that. Like, people could say, oh, it's just social media. You're posting that for a reason. You want that to be said.
I think that's more of a motivational quote. Do you think there's something more in that?
100% there's something more in that. Okay. What do you think? He's just suddenly turned into the Dalai Lama here? He's unhappy with the situation. You can see what's going on there. He's not happy at all.
Is that, though, him finding the motivation for himself to be better? Rather than...
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I can see... I'm more with you.
You're on both sides. Like, there's two sides to sit on this one. Is he taking shots at other people or the organisation? I don't think that's Sobes. I know Sobey very, very well. He's an elite professional. Yes, he rubs people the wrong way because he's so tenacious and his effort is absolutely... It rubs people the wrong way. Right. But the thing is, his heart is pure. Yeah. He's a fantastic person. He's a fantastic family man. And he's an excellent basketballer. So that is him motivating himself. I don't care what anyone else says.
I can see.
I haven't spoken to Sobes either, but I guarantee you that is 100% him saying, I'm going to be better. I expect change from myself because I haven't been up to par. So Felix,
he's reaching.
But Mitch, I've never met the guy in my life. I would clearly know more than you. Get out of it there with that. I've known him for years. I know him very well. I'm right on this one, and I'll stand by it. The next 5 games for South East Melbourne. Again, we talk about must-win games. All of these right now, especially round 4 against the Bullets. That one's a tough one.
Well, they want to get that one, obviously, because if you drop that, then you play Melbourne United in a throwdown once again, and then you go to New Zealand. Illawarra, we know how good they are. Tassie and Perth Wildcats have figured it out by then too. My goodness, you're trying to figure out where the first win's going to come from.
Dangerous.
Let's get this right. It's not throw down, it's the throw up.
It certainly
throw
is.
up.
The throw up because over the last year or two, Melbourne United have come in and just spanked them. And it shouldn't be like that. And I mentioned at the beginning of the year, Southeast Melbourne could be the face of this town if they came in and got that win. But they can't do it.
Thanks, man.
Instead, they've just been getting spanked. But it's time to go. It ain't no cupcake league. Shout out to our guy, Corey Homicide Williams. What has just pricked our ears during the week? And I'm going to kick us off for this one because Derek Rucker, of course, he turned 50, 60. No one really knows because it's hard to tell. He dresses young. He looks young.
Oh, wow.
But they posted his video highlights here. Now, Leonard, you are a legend, one of the greatest imports we've ever seen in this country.
Preach.
But I don't know what you've done to the people that work in social media in this league because they did you so dirty. Look at that defense.
Oh, a little
reach straight through. And these are
we were up by 20, man. We were up by 20.
Oh, again, blown by Rucker.
Because I got Bracky in the back.
And old Copeland, again, trailing the play, struggling. And it got worse. Look, you go for the shot, and they're going to add in the one defensive play of his career.
I couldn't see it. I gave Derek, by the way, I gave Derek 44 in that game.
Oh, sure.
44, thank you.
Just like we played the game at Challenge Stadium and you told me you used to light that place up. We checked it and I think he scored 5 points his last outing.
Here we go.
That's good. That's
5 more than you, though.
Yeah.
How about that?
Now, I want to throw a question out before I throw to my cupcake of the week. We talk about things that we need to be better with, but out of all 4 of us, I want you to point to who you think would take the most pride in their appearance. Ready? And go. Okay, I'm glad you said that, Copes. Now, we were going to Tassie, fantastic game, and have a look at this. Have a look at this from the great man down in Tassie. Firstly, let me.
I got wrinkles, man. I had to get the wrinkles out of my jacket.
That beautiful jacket that just came out of the carry-on bag, and he brought this.
That's a steam.
Did you carry that in your pocket?
He brought the steamer himself, which proves that he's not Cupcake. He wants to make sure he looks very good. But this is what I caught him doing for about half an hour before the game.
Oh, yeah, I caught him worse than that. He uses that thing on his skin as well. That's why he's got no wrinkles. I caught him in there.
He looks great.
You guys are killing me today, but that's all right. That's all right. That is very good, buddy.
Where's your cupcake?
I'm up now. Now, look, usually the kids get excited about the Hungry Jacks. They're yelling and screaming or whatever. But check out our man, Joel Peterson.
Did you forget his name?
No. Check out our man, Joel Peterson.
Let's check him.
Check him out after this.
There's one just down the road in Glenorchy, not far from here. We're off to Hungry Jackson! The code is layup, and we'll be there after this.
He was hungry in your ear too.
He was starving.
I think I copped a little bit of spit after that. It was a real up and in.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic stuff, Pete. Leonard, great job with your cupcakes. We're coming up right after the break. 20 more to go. Welcome back to NBL Overtime. It's time to crack into Perth versus Tassie, one of the best games of the round. A game that was on life support at the beginning. It was 30-36 at halftime, and I reinstate, if the game is 30-36 at halftime, both coaches should be arrested and sent out of the game because we don't want that. We want high octane, and that's what we got towards the finish. As we check out the highlights here, one of the games of the round, massive plays from both teams down the stretch.
Yeah, it was huge, and again, we were down there, Copes. It was fantastic. One, it was thankful, as you said, because it started very poor. And you threw the word ugly out there, which I thought was generous. But Milton Doyle, he only hit 6 shots on the night, hit 4 of them in the fourth quarter. This here from Hiram Harris and Elijah Pepper, the rookie, stepping up and knocking that one down. We thought the Perth had stolen it. You do not want to give Milton Doyle a chance to either win the game or send it to overtime. That man just oozes a clutch gene that not many else can. And then Tassie got it done in overtime. So it was massive.
It was big. You're right. Both teams played defense in the first half, but Tasmania just couldn't knock down a shot at all. But they got it going. I mean, Jordan knocked down some shots. Ding was tough at the end there when he knocked down that 3. And the crowd, the noise, I say it all the time, it's the loudest stadium in the league.
Gazy doesn't like it. Gazy doesn't like it at all. Those ears, he complains.
It's the music. I think the music side of it, not so much the fans.
Yeah. The biggest talking point out of the game, and we love this, it was controversial, the call, the sideline potential. Was it a travel? Was it not? Here's the play right here. Now, the rule, we'll have a look at the statement that NBL Communications sent out, but the Perth fans on social media, I may have stoked the flames a little, were irate. Since when was this allowed?
Well, you mentioned that because John really knew straight away, right? Where we were sitting, we couldn't see it.
Right.
All the players in front of us from the broadcast, we couldn't see it. John really saw it as it was happening and then turned around before overtime and was asking us about it. And you say that no one knew. We all sat here. Creaky's played for however long. No one knew.
If I knew that I could move on the sideline inbounds, what a player I could have been. I could have made the league if I had that knowledge going into my career. But the NBL statement, the NBL wishes to clarify the final play of the fourth quarter in today's Tasmania versus Perth game. A player inbounding the ball, news to me, can move up to a metre laterally or backwards as far as he wants before inbounding the ball. There was no violation. Now, originally, when I heard that statement, I thought spin. But you have a look at this. They brought up FIBA Rule 17.31694. The thrower in shall not. Now, you can go through this, but according to the rules, you can move a metre laterally side to side. Now, you look at that, and I think certainly was a little bit further than a metre. But at the end of the day, we probably say judgment call.
Well, again, how hard is it going to be to be able to measure that in real time with all the heat going on?
But your eyes will tell you how he moved from.
If we actually go deep into the rule book, the NBL has been kind enough to send through their little rule book, the FIBA rules, and if we do look. Right onto, item 17 there, you can move laterally. So, unfortunately, everyone who's ever played the game of basketball was unaware that you could do this. So,
we're all wrong.
A game-changing
You look good with those glasses, by the way. But it's funny, like, Creaky, you've played forever. Coach, you played forever. Even Derek Rucker came out on NBL Now, said he didn't know about that specific rule. Everyone was under the assumption that from the sideline out of bounds, you can't move at all.
This is like one of those rules. You get put over by a policeman and he says, you know you can't do that. Oh, I never knew that. Sorry, officer, I had no idea. But this is the same.
Maybe we've never been pulled over.
Fools and I, we literally sat here pre-show and said, well, I thought there was an established pivot foot.
Yep.
And I think everyone in the NBL, I don't know if Clint Steinwell knew that this was Rule 17.3512, but this is,
a lot of people on Twitter knew, though.
At the end of the day, I will say with this, though, that, look, there was a lot of ref bashing going on online, on Twitter, and, I was even getting into it a little bit, but I don't want the game decided on a judgment call. It was potentially 1.2 metres, 1.3. That's close enough for me. Let him inbound the ball. I think the referee made the right decision in that one, and there was some undue criticism. The ref was probably the only one on earth that knew that was the actual rule, so credit to them. But there were bigger issues as well in the game, especially Keanu Pinder and the way he came out late.
Yeah, the thing with him was he was rebounding the ball very well. And me and Pete were sitting there saying, why are we taking him out right now? He went to the glass, I think he had 5 offensive rebounds. 7 offensive rebounds. He did quite well. And then they took him out with 3 or 4 minutes to go. And we were perplexed, like, why is he coming out? But then they brought him back at the end. But I looked at him on the sideline and he shrugged his shoulders as if to say, why am I sitting here? So
we were calling for it in the game to get him back in. Not so much the offensive, even though it was great, because Hiram Harris pulled down some offensive rebounds. But defensively, they gave up a couple of O-boards as well in those moments where it would have been great to have him on the floor.
Yeah, we're all looking at each other. I don't know, but realistically, he's your best rebounder.
Yeah.
He's so great around the ring. He can finish, he can play, do everything. You sit him on the bench, it doesn't make any sense, but he was a spark for them. He gave them life. He gave them opportunities.
You wonder whether it has to do with now he's been ruled out of concussion for Thursday night.
Which is big.
So they've just come out and said that he's going to be out with a delayed concussion here. From this hit too, he copped the back of Majuk Deng's head right underneath the mask. And, he's had problems there before. And he was dazed after that. So
they took him to the locker room. Yeah,
they took him to the locker room. It didn't look quite right. So maybe that was why they took him out. That would make a whole lot more sense. Although he did come back in, as you said, Copes. But he will be sorely missed for a team that need to get a win on the road in Cairns on Thursday night.
Well, they're going to be in massive strife as well because Dylan Windler, another guy that's going to be injured. Now, anytime you get a leading rebounder type guy, they are very, very hard to replace. Scorers, you can find buckets elsewhere, but leading rebounders, and you know what? It doesn't look pretty. For a guy that has been injured as well before getting over to Australia, throughout his career, he's had injury issues. Was Dylan Windler the guy to pick up? Because you look right now, there's a lot of DNPs through injuries and you just can't afford that in such a close league.
I keep saying I think he's going to be, besides Bryce Cotton, their most important player. So they need him back. But again, it is a concern where he's missed a whole lot. And the 2 games he's played in the season, he's averaging 13 rebounds per game. So that just proves how much they could use his services.
How much are you concerned? We know John Riley's concerned and how much they need him back with not having a point guard when Ty Webster's out. We'll have a look at the press conference here from Riley and see what he had to say about it.
The simple answer is I think everyone saw how valuable Ty Webster is to our team tonight. Just like the defensive pressure and just having another guy that can get into the paint and create a lot of opportunity for us on offense. When you're playing against a team with that level of physicality, he has a nice presence.
The create opportunities on offense is what I'm here for. So this is Bryce. This is in the clutch in the 4th quarter. He's having to play the point. They're going to double team him. Okay, get the ball out of his hands. Obviously, you want to get it back to the 4-time MVP. They don't care. Tassie's going after it, saying anybody else can beat us but Bryce Cotton. So there's one turnover. Has to bring the ball up again. They're going after him. This is where Ty Webster brings it up and maybe sets up an offense where Bryce Cotton can run off 4 down screens and flex screens. And then after that, they just do their best to not let him get it. Okay, he's got it. Look at that. 3 guys are just making sure that he's not going to have an impact on this game. They need Ty Webster back in this lineup as soon as possible. And this is the very next play. Look how hard he has to work to get the ball, and then they just swarm on him.
Well, it's important, too, for them to have Pinder, when he's healthy, on the floor as well. You got to have a second guy who can score, because if you think Cotton's going to lead you to a championship by himself, he's not. You got to have other guys. Doolittle was very good in this game.
Very good.
We talked about he passed the ball well, he rebounded the ball well, he made the right decisions. He got Cotton the ball at the right time, but he's not the 2-man for you. Pinder needs to be the guy for you if you think you're going to win a championship.
Yeah, every team we talk about is you need a 4-man. You need someone who can short roll, pop, play off the dribble, and Doolittle did that. He made really great poised decisions down the stretch, and it was a one-on-one scenario. You get the ball to him on a short roll. He's playing with one person in front of him. That's a good matchup for Doolittle. So I think if he can be more consistent with that and relieve that pressure, bringing the ball up sometimes, putting Bryce on the second side, it allows Bryce to get off the ball and not have to do all the ball handling, then all the scoring, then all the playmaking. I think Doolittle can carry some of that load.
You speak of Bryce Cotton. Well, that leads us directly into Hool's hearing, which this week, it's been hijacked.
We look the same.
We do look very similar. And this week, it's Hoff is hearing. Very rarely do people talk to me, let alone give me any sort of information.
Do you blame him? Do you blame him?
No, I don't at all. It's probably the right move, because as soon as I got a little bit of information, I'm going to TV to split it back out. So probably the smart move. But what I am hearing is we know all is not well in Perth right now on the court. They've got some stuff to work out. But Bryce Cotton, the league superstar, the best player in the league, the best import of all time, is heading into a contract year. Is currently in a contract year, and I'm hearing that he is not very happy with the way that it's going and would be open to entertaining calls from other teams, which I don't believe has been much of a thought process in previous years.
I can confirm that I have spoke to a couple of clubs and they are monitoring the Bryce Cotton situation very closely, as you would. A four-time MVP, out of contract, no extension currently. Why would you not try and pick up the phone and try and see what's going on there and wait to see what plays out there? Every single team, if Bryce Cotton was the end of the year was a free agent, Cope, every team's going to pick up the phone and say, but how do we
Not every team's going to pick up the phone because they can't afford him, but the big teams will definitely pick up the phone and send him an email and send him a letter and send a pigeon. They're looking for him, I'm telling you right now. So.
You know this dude played a long time ago and he's talking about getting a contract extension via pigeon.
But you're right, Craig. Every club, again, same with you, I'm sure there would have been plenty of clubs that picked up the phone and said, hey.
Yeah, now look, I had 1 year left on my contract. This year coming up was still in my contract. So obviously we kind of had to deflect some of those interests. But I'm not Bryce Cotton. Like, Bryce Cotton is by far the best player we've had in this league for maybe ever. Like, I'm going to put him up there with the greatest of all time in the NBL. I'll be honest, I called Bryce Cotton at the end of last season and said, what do we need to do to play together somewhere in the world? Because Bryce is someone that is so unselfish, is a great human being. He has all the intangibles to be a superstar everywhere, not just in scoring or being a basketballer, in all facets of life. And for me, I just want to be around great people that make others better. So I called Bryce and I said, hey, mate, let's do this. What's going on? Where are we? Off season. We touched base. We communicated. So, look, I know his services will be wanted everywhere, but it's the same thing. How much money is a team willing to pay to steal him from Perth?
That's what he's got his family there too. Can you see Bryce Cotton in any other team but Perth?
No, I feel wrong. What I am going to leave this segment by saying is the longer it takes for Perth to re-sign Bryce Cotton, the more worried fans should be, because we see players all the time. If they want to stay there, they'll sign early. He's got a figure that he's worth, and you really can't go too far away from that because of the contract rules.
He's 32. He should be getting the same, if not more.
That's what I'm saying. But the longer it takes to re-sign and the more worried I would be. But let's just go into a more lighter note now, because we need to speak highly of a team, and that is the Cairns Type Ends, the Giant Killers. 6 of the last 7 games against Melbourne United. They've pantsed them and got it done. They are absolutely rolling at the moment. They've struck gold. We say it time and time again with Rob Edwards.
He's unbelievable. He is so fun to watch. And if you talk to him off the court ever, and I'm sure people in Cairns know, he is so silent. He just keeps to himself. He does his own thing. And then when he gets on the white lines and gets across onto the court, he is an absolute animal. And nobody in his way is going to slow him down. Shaylee went to him, and he eventually got his way and did his thing. And he is unbelievably fun to watch. And I hope we get to see him for many more seasons to come. But the way he's playing, you feel like you get an NBA opportunity.
How good it is, well. We were both there at this game. The way he was screaming at opposition benches. He's calling his number, he's calling his shot and going hard at the opposition teams. He's everything. And I think someone put it, I can't remember who said it, but they put it perfectly. He knows what it's like to play for the Type Ends and what you have to do. You have to carry a bit more of a load when you're playing for a smaller market team than you do in a Melbourne or Sydney. Xavier Cooks, they can have a bit of night off. He's got to bring the energy and his game every single night, and he is so far. You
got to give 40 some credit, man. How many times has he gone out and recruited these players, these superstars that no one can find? This guy is an absolute superstar. And I'm hearing, too, he's a great guy off the floor. But like you said, when he crosses that white line, he's talking trash. And a lot of people don't like that. But he's backing it up, though. He's scoring the points. Is he leading the league in scoring right now?
Yep. Trey Kell, I think. He's close. He's close.
Anytime you can bring a guy out like that, has the size, has the look, and can put the ball in the hole, You got to keep.
If we're going early on award watch, we've got Rob Edwards MVP, then surely most improved Kyron Galloway has got to be working his way into the discussion, especially with Taron Armstrong back. He's looking very good.
Love everything about Kyron Galloway's game. And look, we do predictions all the time. We say some outlandish things that never age very well. We know that's part of the job. But on the 16th of April, when free agency opened and he was signing in Cairns, I came out and said, you know what? He's going to win the most improved player. Right now, I'm starting to get a little anxious. I like it when I'm wrong 98% of the time.
99.
I've got to get the 2% right.
So it's just Pete's performance on tonight's show. You've shouted out your own podcast in an elsewhere position. You shouted out another opinion out on Overtime. And now you're talking about your old opinions as our cameraman just trips over the whole entire monitor.
He's throwing everybody under the bus today, boy.
It's all happening.
Hey, again, I'm wrong every other time.
Too?
It's soon.
Oh, okay, that's
soon.
why.
Well, let's have it.
On that, he is playing at a level that is why I think they are so dangerous.
Yeah.
He's a four-man that stretches the floor. You got Sam, you got all these guards, you got everyone around him who are just spacing it. And you can't stand anywhere but on that man's toes right now. 70% from the three-point line. If he keeps this up and just shoots poorly for the next 5 games, he's still probably going to shoot 50%. So he's got so much confidence from 40. We've talked about it. This is what 40 does. He grooms players into being very confident, very talented, and he finds his superstars. Adam Ford, fantastic.
40 on Friday night. Might have let us into a little bit of his secret sauce here because he spoke of a little hell week that the Cairns Taipans get up to pre-season.
We went a little bit old school. You know, we spent, we called it a mini camp. We nicknamed it Hell Week. I basically had them from about 8 in the morning to about 5 in the afternoon, 5 days in a row. We did tour days. We did a little bit of boot camp style. Really tried to run them into the ground. And it was something that we wanted to keep referring back to us at different points during the season to say, hey, look, you know, the schedule we got to start with is pretty good, but when it gets harder, you know, we can refer back to that in pre-season where we didn't break and we get just, you know, staying together, sticking to the process and trying to take it one day at a time.
Hell week. How about hell no week? 9 in the morning to 5, are you kidding me? I'm out the door.
Yeah.
But this is the difference between him and some of these other coaches. He pushes these guys, and look, they know what to expect, and that's why he's winning right now.
No, it's fantastic. And again, it's a real money ball vibe around Cairns in terms of what he goes out and understands what they can do. He just finds these pieces who want a second chance, who want something, and they thrive under 40. He's a genius.
Plenty coming up, including Can't Cope next after the break.
Three-point spread. Where does Steindl go? He gets it to Doyle. Can Milton make some magic? Oh!
Well, the NBL at its best here between the Hawks and the 36ers. Davis retakes the lead with a monster three.
Chance for the Jackies to go ahead. Majuk Deng. Got it.
Mitsubishi Motors making it rain. Rob Edwards leading the Snakes up the top there with 15. This season, I believe I'm wrong on a vast majority of stats, but I'm pretty sure I've got this one right. On track to be the most threes in an NBL season, the way that it is tracking so far.
Yeah, look, the NBA's followed the same pathway. The NBL's doing the exact same thing now, but that is the level of skill of the players going up every single year. You love to see it, and some of these games are just knockdown three, and there's a 5-second shot clock going on. There used to be 24, now it's 5, and it's just 3, 3, 3, 3.
Yep. The game is changing before our eyes. Thank you very much, Steph Curry. But it's time for Can't Cope.
Wow. Here we go.
Bang.
By the way, I hate this photo. Now, fellas, listen. We all love the Sydney Kings. We know how powerful the Sydney Kings are, right? You don't love the Sydney Kings?
I don't love the Sydney.
Okay, here we go. Now, the one thing that bothers me the most is their leaky defense at the end of the game. He's going to catch up with them. Look, first round, led by 16 points, end up winning by 8. Second round, they led by 17, win by 1. And the third, led by 27, only win by 9. Gorgeous spoke about it and said, listen, we got to fix this because some teams are going to catch up and win and beat us at the end if we don't manage our problem.
Do you put that down to arrogance, thinking they're too good?
Honestly, I just think with all the substitutions coming in and out, they feel like they can play with anyone, but teams are coming at you. You're in the first, everyone has you as winning the championship, everybody's coming at you.
I think it's inevitable, though, on what you said. I love the fact that Gorge just brought that up in a press conference now, because I do think it's inevitable. When you have all this talent that we've talked about and you know how good you can be, and you going and being up by 20 in these games, inevitably this little seed in the back of your mind says, it doesn't matter what we do the rest of this game.
Yeah.
So the fact that Gorge is going to try and stamp that out now is going to benefit them in the long run.
Certainly not the league to be trying to do that. Xavier Cooks, is he sleepwalking his way to another MVP right now? Because it's hard to follow guys too much when they're in these stacked rosters. But he's averaging 21. He's having an MVP-style season, but it's sort of lost in the greatness of the Kings.
Oh, look, I think he definitely is playing at a level that he's gone away. He's made some great money. He's had a really good chance to play in the NBA. He's come back with confidence. And I know when I went away, I felt the same way. I came back, confidence through the roof. Now, as you can see, I'd love to continue to see this. Xavier Cook shooting the 3-ball, staying, talking about it, letting them know. That's what I want to see. You do that, yes, you're going to be an MVP for a second time, mate.
Do you think it has anything to do with Gorgon cutting him from the Boomers team?
I think it's always going to be a natural motivation when something like that happens. Yeah.
Oh, I think, yeah, for sure. As Felix said, there's no doubt that'd be a natural thing, but he is just playing with a swagger and a confidence about him now. And we were in Hoops Fest, and again, Perth crowd were getting stuck into him. I heard some people saying, you'll always be number 2 on the back of Rucker's top 15. And he was smiling and he was saying he loved it, but he is playing unbelievable. And again, he's not doing anything like flashy where we're sitting here just being like, oh, wow, did you see him? But the numbers he's put up, the impact he's having, this is why he's going to be in contention for an MVP once again.
Tyler Robertson, another guy that sort of sits further down towards the bench there. It's tough when you get as a new recruit, especially out of college, and you join a roster this stacked. But could this be the end of Sean Bruce, man? He starts to eat into a little bit of that time.
When I saw Tyler Robertson come on the floor against the Bullets, my only thought was they've just created some more issues here. Because Tyler Robertson can flat out go.
Yeah.
And you talk about what they need off the bench. Do they need defence? Do they need offence? Do they need a bit of a combination of both? Isaiah Liafa's really down on form right now, but Sean Bruce is going to have his moments. I said to someone online the other day about how important he is to this team. And you talked about guys who are going to get under the skin. You'd hate to play against them, but love them on your team. Sean Bruce is going to be so pivotal for the Sydney Kings' success. But Tyler Robertson now just showed, hey, I deserve some minutes here. So there's more guys off the bench who might need some minutes.
And look, a Horsham, fella is always going to be tough. I don't know how many there are in the league, but they are pretty good. I know Sean's from Horsham. There's one other guy, I don't know who he is, but he's pretty good too. But Sean Bruce is the guy for me that when the going gets tough, Sean Bruce steps up.
Yeah, he does.
When everyone's worried about, oh, this moment's too big, Sean Bruce, I can't remember how many times I've seen him get under someone's skin.
Yeah.
When all you do is say, Copes, he is going to get under your skin, don't react. I've said it to teammates, and then he does it. You get an unsportsmanlike foul, then Sean comes down, hits a dagger 3, looks at you, runs down the other end, and I walk back to the bench every single time, or I watch the games and I think, yeah, nice. That's a Horsham.
He's not afraid to give you a little elbow.
I don't think anyone warned Freddie Gillespie of that in the pre-season blitz. Just don't let this guy get under your skin. Maybe don't headbutt him as well if you're going to go down that route. But the Adelaide 36 is one of the biggest stories of the round because Kendrick Davis and Isaac Humphries, they were called out by journalists, by media, even we came at them, and they answered back in emphatic fashion exactly when Adelaide needed it.
I was so impressed with Kendrick Davis's response. And again, it got blown up massively, but I expected a lot of people thought he might come out and try and force. Just look at the patience in all of this in the first quarter. It is 6.5 minutes into a game after everything that got talked about the week before. That was his first field goal attempt.
Yep.
There was nothing forced. He was letting Isaac Humphries get going. Harold was starting as well. He was just playing within himself saying, you know what, I'm going to figure out my time to go. If the shot clock winds down, look, he's looking for everybody else. This impressed me so much for a guy who you'd expect to come out and try and jack it all, and he was fantastic. And if he continues to play like this, Adelaide 36ers, make no mistake about it, they are going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Absolutely they are, and he was fantastic, and I love the way he plays. But then look at that guy standing in the corner right there with the red shoes. He's standing there the whole game like this, waiting on the ball. Now, they got to find a way to get all of those guys involved because you cannot have that point guard scoring those many points and DJ standing there because then DJ starts to try to force his shots, and that's where it blows all up.
Do you think it's advantageous having a scoring point guard in this league?
Well, as long as he passes the ball, and he's been doing that. I think he averages 8 assists a game or 7 assists a game, so he's doing that. But it can be hard now, trust me. I played with a point guard who loved to shoot. You got to find your way. And if they do that, then you got to get
Recent history has shown us that normally it's one of two ways. You need a very strong Aussie local, like a Shea Ely type, who's going to get it done, even Mitch McCarron when he was playing for Melbourne United, or you need an MVP like Jalen Adams, right, who's going to score the ball and do it all. Normally the ones in between are the ones that find trouble, but based on what we just saw from the last 2 games, there's no reason to think that he won't be able to go up there.
And you see with Davis and especially Dejan as well, they work well together. Like, Dejan's not a guy who's sped up too much. Like, he plays at a poise and a pace that is very hard to play against. Now, Kendrick Davis, as we saw in those highlights, that was as fundamental as an offensive player could ever get. Simple cuts, separation, timing, fakes, rejects, pull-ups, floaters, left, right, hook passes. If you want to study someone right now with their poise and what you need to be a good, probably guard or even big man in this league or any league, I think that's someone you really need to watch.
Now, the biggest thing for the Adelaide 36ers was great getting it done against South East Melbourne, even better getting it done against Illawarra, but you do it against the Kings and you validate all of this stuff. But we got plenty more coming up after the break. Well, the New Zealand Breakers are currently carrying the flag for us over there in the United States in the NBL Times NBA preseason games. And Jo Healy, she's over there with the team. We caught up with her.
Yeah, hey guys, checking in from Philadelphia. A tough loss for the Breakers this evening. It was pretty evident that there were some tired legs out there. They only arrived in late last night from Utah, and I think even the jet lag from their trip over from Auckland even is still lingering. A couple of bright sparks for the Breakers, though. Mo King finished the game really well, and Parker Jackson Cartwright was also bowling out. He finished with a game-high 26 points. He told me yesterday he loves the bright lights and big occasions, so it was no surprise that he was a star out there again. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Taco Fall at all this tour, and it was confirmed today that he won't play against OKC either. He picked up a quad strain in his first session with the group and has been trying to get it right. He was disappointed when I spoke to him today about being sidelined. He really wanted to be out there with the team. It does make things interesting in terms of the Breakers potentially keeping him on for the rest of the season. But as Matt Walsh told me today, they are really happy with Freddie Gillespie as well, so we'll wait and see what plays out there. Now, Kareem Lopez was also out for the 76ers game with wrist pain. He was x-rayed right before the tip. It came back clear, but he's just dealing with a bit of pain, so hopefully he'll be out there for OKC. He had a great first game against the Jazz, and there's been a lot of interest in him this trip. Don't forget, he only turned 17 in April and is already looking like a first-round pick for 2026. He's very likely to be the face of Mexican basketball in years to come. So not the performance they would have wanted here in Philly, but still positives to take from it. They've got the day off tomorrow before travelling to Tulsa the following day to take on OKC.
17 years old, Kareem Lopez. Can you even fly over to America without a sponsored adult with you at 17?
He was, honestly, how comfortable did he look on an NBA floor? And for 17, and you just know Liam Santamaria as a home dad, Leonardo DiCaprio. Just looking at him.
The big one out of here, of course, because there was a lot of talk beforehand, especially Leonard was big on it, bringing Taco Fall back to the NBL on the back end. Is that really, that's probably not going to happen, and Matt Walsh looks to drill that in?
In terms of the future with Taco, like, we would love for him to be a part of the Breakers at some point in the future. We're also, I think there was some speculation. We're very happy with Freddie. He's the best professional. He's also an incredible guy, and it's kind of like we have this opportunity now to have 2 really great guys with us. Obviously, Taco can't play, and we're going to work with his agent to see what it could mean, next season or in the future, and that's all a work in progress.
Very much feels like it's not you, it's me situation here. Freddie Gillespie, I think he's done a good enough job. I don't think Taco's shown anything that would really change that.
No, I think they know what they got in Freddie Gillespie, right, as a defensive rim protector as well. I think what Matt Walsh is upset with, that Taco Fall doesn't get to show himself to the NBA teams. You bring a lot of players in, they're excited about doing that as well. So.
Can we get him a jersey that fits, though? Come on, Taco.
What size do you reckon he rolls with?
I don't know, XXX.
Triple.
There's got to be 5
5'9". I wear clothes too small, so I'm not going to really talk on this one. But let's have a look at the round 4 preview. The big matches coming up. There's, of course, the Nathan Sobey Cup, which is going to be big further on down the week. But Thursday, Friday, right now, where are you looking there, Pete?
Oh, I mean, Adelaide versus Sydney. That's huge. DJ versus the Sydney Kings.
It's created a great storyline, hasn't it?
Matchups galore, though. Davis, Adams, DJ, Bull, Qual, Cooks, Harrell.
Wow.
It's all happening right there. Round 4 for the NBL. You can catch it on ESPN, of course, Sunday 2:30 on Channel 10 as well. But it's time for The Trend Is Your Friend.
Here we go. Whoa.
That's twice I've been left
Another one got it.
That is twice I've been left hanging on this show. But you know where I won't be left hanging? In the first quarter, because that's where the Brisbane Bullets have left their fans hanging continuously throughout the year. You look at the Brisbane Bullets' slow starts, the first quarters. Round 1 versus the Breakers, -6. Round 2 versus the Hawks, -13. Round 3 versus the Kings, -5. They have been abhorrent in the first quarters, even going towards last year. So you've got to start thinking now, it's a bit of a niche bet type for those who do like to have a gamble on the games. The first quarter line. You can bet individually, but it's a great one to be able to throw into your same game multis right now because the Brisbane Bullets, Pete, they start the game slower than I can run 100 metres.
Well, I mean, or you could think of the other way too, that they're going to have to respond, right, in the first quarter eventually. So that's one way you can look, but they have been very, very slow out the gates. But mind you, boys, that segue you just gave into that, I'll shake your hand for that one. That is why you're the host with the most right there, Felix. Yeah, they have been very slow out of the gates.
Leonard, if you're Justin Schuller right now and you need to get them out of this slump to stop them, what are you doing pre-game?
That man.
I'm bringing in Mitch Norton. I'm talking to Mitch Norton. I'm having a chat with him. I'm taking him to lunch. I'm giving him the ball and letting him run that team. That's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely disastrous right now in the first quarters. Mitch, is there any way that you would change this? Which, from a betting perspective, you don't really want it to change. You want the trend to continue going through, but what would you do to change that?
Look, right now, we are waiting for guys to get back. Bannon's obviously a big piece. You want a good four who can set screens, do everything inside, and do all the hard, tough work. I think you got to slide Casey Prather back to the 3 spot. That's where he made his bread and butter money. But right now, we got to put Norton into the lineup. I think you are right, Copes, on this one, but he is a tough guy. He's won championships. Let's see how it all goes.
You love a power forward, don't you?
I love a power forward. I might go back and play point guard, though.
That's all we got to say. So if you're tuning into the game this weekend, if you see Mitch Norton in the starting lineup, maybe don't go towards that first quarter trend because it may change. But right now in your same game multis, first quarter Brisbane, no good. Plenty more after the break.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
God knows what I'm cooking in that back shack looking thing right there. But it's time to get into Under Pressure, and we're directing this time. So, Leonard, we're going to start with you. Number 5, the refs on the sideline inbounds this round. Under pressure?
No, apparently not. But we read your book. Got it right. That's right.
Hulls is hearing since you've been usurped in your own segment.
Yeah, you've done well there, even though we look like twins, I've been told.
Creaky, Bateman under pressure on the potential of being fired soon.
Pressure. Lots of pressure.
Oh. Number 2, Perth to re-sign Cotton.
Oh, well, now that you put it out there, absolutely. You've got to get it done as soon as possible.
Unfortunately, I don't think I carry the same weight as some of the other names that could bring that out. But number 1, I'm going to put this out to everyone. Under the most pressure, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Top to bottom right now, it is struggle street. They need to turn it around.
Right now, they need to win.
That's a big call.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, very rare do you have 2 winless teams. It's going to be the potentially game of the round. But I think it means more for the Phoenix than it will the Bullets.
Massive pressure. Got to step up. There has to be a leader on court and from the sidelines as well.
Major questions to be asked. That's NBL Overtime. Thanks for tuning in. Massive round 4. Catch every game if you can.